Hello everyone, my name is Shanae Jones and we are wrapping up our series on BDSM. So hopefully you got a chance to watch the Instagram repost that is live on YouTube, as well as the series on BD, bondage and discipline, as well as DS and SM, so discipline, dominance and submission, and sadomasochism. So hopefully you found that information interesting, and of course, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to comment on the video or send me a direct message. All of my information across social media is at DOYOUKNKY. I appreciate you joining me and being here and paying attention to this video. We are here to talk about all things sex and get your general questions answered and start talking about it in a way that is constructive, healthy, and conducive to promoting healthy, positive sexual relationships as adults and grown folks in the world. So, I digress. We are wrapping up the BDSM things you need to know. So, again, I hope you watched the Instagram repost and all the other videos. I will not claim to be an expert on BDSM, but what information that I have is based on thorough knowledge and some experience, and I feel that I can give you a very objective insight into what BDSM is. Although I will say that if you are a person who is actively in the lifestyle and you want to help us shed light on your perspectives, please leave a comment, send me a message. Perhaps we can do something together. If you are a person that has questions about the lifestyle, please leave a comment, send me a message. We will have the conversations about it. This is all about conversation and opening up the doors for being able to be better people and better sexual selves. BDSM is all encompassing. It's, again, an umbrella term. It is bondage and discipline, which is the BD. It's the dominance and submission, which is the DS. It's the sadism and masochism, which is the SM, or sadomasochism, which is the SM, not the SNM. A lot of things fall under BDSM, and there are communities that celebrate BDSM, and there are subsects of communities within BDSM that all kind of celebrate themselves and celebrate others who are like-minded. BDSM is not necessarily about sex, although we know that a lot of times it is a very heavy sexual component, but it's more of a power play where someone has to be in control and someone has to relinquish control. It does require informed consent, and when we say informed consent, it's not just about saying yes. It's about understanding the risk that you could potentially be taking with your life if things go wrong. So one of the things that I found interesting is that BDSM is not predicated on your background. So there's no particular type of person that is into BDSM. You can't say, oh, well, only white people are in a BDSM, only black people, only gay people. None of that shit matters. It's who you are and what you're attracted to and what draws you, right? There are people where you would think that, oh, well, they must have been abused if they like abuse and later on in their life. No, that's not the case. There is no correlation. There's no scientific correlation between sexual abuse and people, or physical abuse as a child and being into BDSM as an adult. There's just no correlation for it. What we need to understand is that it's okay if you enjoy these activities. It's just something that you like. I always find it interesting that when we try to look at demographics, that we tend to find more commonalities than differences in a lot of ways. We should not put expectations on ourselves or to others, because what happens is we become judgmental. We assume that we know something about a person's character because of what they could possibly be into as sexual people. BDSM is practiced by lawyers, judges, teachers, maintenance people, postal workers, clergy in some instances, government officials. It's practiced by black, white, Jewish, Muslim. It's practiced by people all around the world, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I hope you understand that. I hope you walk away with a respect for it if you didn't have one before. Now, once you choose to engage in these activities, you go with the understanding that you should feel safe. There should be an establishment of trust with your partner, and creating that safe word, and we talked about this, is what lets both partners know that we've reached our limit and enough is enough, and we need to stop what we're doing. Because again, stop means yes and no means harder. You have to find that balance. So that's what that safe word is for. So remember that even when you're in a situation, BDSM or any sexual situation, you always have the right to change your mind. It's always okay to say no. So even if you start out hunky-dory and things are working, if something changes, say no. Hopefully no isn't your safe word, depending on what your relationship dynamic is with the person that you are with. But keep that in mind, that no, the topic of no, I don't want to do this anymore, is always on the table. There's nothing that you have to do that your partner perhaps wants that you don't. The goal is for both of you to be enjoying something and getting something out of the experience. Now, we talked about the movie The Secretary and it being the inspiration of 50 Shades of Grey. Now, there is some conversation within the BDSM community where they appreciate the highlights of bringing BDSM as a general topic to light, where you can now see that, oh shit, this is on a big screen, it's getting box office sales. So there are enough people that are actually interested in it that don't have to go to the little adult store with the blackout windows to buy their rag. No, you see that it's a major motion picture and people are into it. That's a great thing. There are others, though, who have some concerns because they feel that because it is this major motion picture, that it's not, and perhaps not a documentary, but it doesn't reflect the actual sexual nature, sexual components. It's way too harsh versus what a real relationship, a BDSM relationship would look like. There are those that feel that way. And what I say is that whichever lane of the aisle that you stand on, that you understand that it is at least part of the conversation. If there's shit in there that we don't agree with, let's change it and tell a different story. Tell the story that makes the most sense for who we are as a people. what I want you guys to know is that connections are the most important thing when it comes to these types of relationships, and how it is that you build and feed off of each other, and what does it mean for the foundation of your relationship. It's important to remember the roles in BDSM, although they can, fluctuate depending on the situation, where you have your dominant, who is the person that is in control, you have, or who is the superior. You have your submissive, who is the person who is receiving the punishments, or receiving the directives, or receiving all of the things from the dom, right? You have that person. You have that submissiveness that makes you the inferior in the relationship. And so again, the terms top and bottom are also equivocal to dominance and submissives. And so I hope that I don't remember if I said this in a previous video, but a female dom is called a mistress, a dominatrix, or a DOMME dom. So hopefully I said that in a previous video. If not, you heard it here. Okay, so there are some very basic and almost, as far as BDSM is, vanilla things that you can consider as part of your current, possibly, sex life. If you decide to spank her, so spanking, it doesn't necessarily be hurt. Guys like to be spanked too. Some of them, if you decide to spank, or you use ties, again, to do the restrictions, or if you want to use handcuffs, or if you decide to go further than that, further than what would be on the low spectrum of BDSM, where you don't need professional help, okay. But if you really want to start getting into tying knots and suspensions and spankings and figuring out which whip to use and all of that stuff, please find a local resource or reach out to me, and we will be able to figure out together what makes the most sense for getting you engaged and getting you to be in a position where you are active but safe, that you've considered everything that you need to consider, and you can be left to run free and live your best sexual selves. I would like to just end this by saying that BDSM is something that you have to do for yourself. It really is. When you do your research, don't rely on one particular source. Go out and validate the information and do what is right for you. There are different types of events where people of like mind engage. Some of them are private events where perhaps you have to be on a guest list and you get invited. If it's a public event, meaning that anyone who is in the lifestyle and happens to hear about it can show up, just make sure that you are safe. You're in a safe environment. I want you to understand that although I am a fan of pornography, but only as a form of entertainment. I'm not a fan of pornography as a tool of education. What we see on TV is not necessarily how things are going to be in the field. Those are not how things are going to work when you're actually in that scenario. So what I would suggest is that you look at videos if you're interested, and videos are very easy to us. Again, the internet has made the world very small. To look at people who are actually in the lifestyle and see what it is that they do, what their trials and tribulations are, what works, what doesn't work for them. BDSM requires a lot of communication, and you talk about what your expectations are for before, during, and after. And so when I say before you actually engage in these activities, you talked about it, you establish what the boundaries are, you know what it is that each other's into, you've gone through the rigmarole of being able to decipher out the bullshit and get to the core of what makes you guys work together. You can also you just have to manage expectations. So the managing expectations before is one thing. So you've worked out your agreement. I'm a fan of the Big Bang Theory, and if you don't know what that is, sorry, but Sheldon is really, really big about creating contracts, and there are those of us who prepare contracts because we know that we, although not necessarily legally binding, we know that we've spelled out and established what the relationship byproducts are supposed to be, and if there's a violation of that term, then we talk about it, or we do something about it. The conversation about sex and consent and communication during sex is really just about making sure that your partner's okay. You would want to make that happen, to make sure that they are okay. And the conversation after is to make sure that it lived up to, the experience lived up to what it is that both of you thought. So communication is really, really going to be a key. BDSM is not predicated based on the type of relationship that you are in. You could be in a monogamous relationship or be poly or swinger, whatever it is, but what you need to understand is that BDSM is a characteristic of the type of lifestyle that you want to engage in if you are an active practitioner of BDSM. Otherwise, it's something that either completely disgusts you or something that you're curious about and you want to try to figure out how to incorporate this into your life. If it's the middle option, or I guess the last option because I sandwiched it, feel free to reach out to me. Shanae Jones, resident certified sex coach. There are a lot of different toys out there, different whips. You can get stuff that has a harness. You can do all kinds of things, but make sure that you walk through this journey together. Make sure that you and your partner are communicating, because if you don't communicate now, when you start to try to do BDSM, you won't know how to communicate. You won't be on the same page. It will not work. Communication is a huge part of BDSM. So working all of the stuff out that you need to work it out now before you trek down that road and you do something detrimental to your relationship. Take the judgment out. Judgment should never be a part of a healthy and sane and connected relationship. Take the judgment out. People like what they like, and it's like, okay, weird but perfect example, at least to me. If I eat peanut butter and jelly and my preference is strawberry jelly, and I offer you a sandwich that has strawberry jelly, but you've never eaten strawberry jelly, one, how do you even recognize that this is something that you are or are not into just on face value when you've never tried it? Two, if your insistence is on eating a sandwich with grape jelly and I don't have grape jelly, your option is to Eat it or starve. And if you starve, that's never going to go well. You'll die. You don't want to starve yourself of something that you want, something that you need, something that's going to keep you going. So ideally, at least in my scenario, at least in my head, is that if there's something out there that is of interest to you and perhaps you want to try it, don't be afraid to eat the strawberry jelly, even though you're used to grape. You might like it. Okay, I've talked long enough. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, please comment, please subscribe, please share. Do all of that social media magic that people ask you to do, because it really does help me. I appreciate you. Send a comment down below. Everything I do, again, across all social media is at DOYOUKNKY. I'm Shanae Jones, your resident certified sex coach, and I will see you again soon.